As I mentioned before, when I was asked to participate in creating this 30 Tips webinar, the tips were supposed to be alternative or different from what many authors already know. They really didn't want me to get into typical submission information, but I feel I would be remiss as an agent if I didn't briefly stress the importance of some basics regarding submissions. So these are your non-tip tips. First, be sure to follow agency submission guidelines to the letter so you aren't rejected out of hand. Our agency is more forgiving than most when it comes to authors who don't follow the guidelines, but you should come from the perspective that this is not, capital N-O-T, the norm. Agencies have qualified interns reading cold submissions, and though we train our readers to open and read all submissions, other agencies may allow their readers to reject based on submission guidelines that have not been followed. Most agencies will not open a dialogue with you to submit materials you may have forgotten to attach. Also, be sure to do your research before submitting to an agent or agency. Many of the rejections I am forced to send are simply because I don't represent the genre I'm being queried for. And most agents will reject chain letter queries or queries addressed to more than one literary agent. Be professional in your approach, so leave your ego and any lack of self-esteem at the door. The query letters that stand out to agents are those that are professional, less conversational, and more business in approach. Think middle path when writing your query. In other words, don't oversell or undersell yourself. We see hundreds of queries where authors claim they are the next bestseller, as well as those where authors claim they aren't really writers at all, both of which work against our first impression of you. Because we see both of these approaches so often, when we see a query that comes across as straightforward with no gimmicks, we sit up in our chairs and pay closer attention. And the last non-tip tip is on the query letter itself. Many agencies send rejections on query letters alone, and you don't want to be rejected out of hand on a poor query, especially if you followed submission guidelines to the letter and you know this agent to be a really good fit for your project. Granted, there are dozens of reasons why agents reject projects, such as having similar projects, personal timing is off. For example, I had an eye infection once and lost 2 really great projects as a result. They're all over Target and everywhere at this point, and other reasons. But the query is your calling card to agents, so how you execute your query is important.